Yeah.
Yes, that would have been ideal. Good morning, Miss Jackson, Jacqueline Jackson. Are you able to unmute yourself and speak, or you can just type into the chat box? Give it a few more minutes. People are coming in. Chandria, good morning. Miss Jackson, I see your green light is on, so, well, it was. Let's see what the comment is. You're not able to unmute your mic, Miss Jackson? Miss Jackson, Mrs. Jackson, I'm not sure how to address you. And I want to do something a little bit different today. I want you guys to give me an idea of, because the topic of today's training will be how to, basically. It's like how to dispatch. What are the techniques for the concepts of dispatching? What does it mean to be a dispatcher? What are the how-tos of dispatching? I think I had it on Facebook, but I'm not going to go on to Facebook. I'm going to open up my training. Morning, Mike. Let's see here. I'm opening it up now. Role, there it is, role, the role of a dispatcher. So what's the topic of today's training? And then I want to get a dispatcher's perspective of what the role of a dispatcher is. So what I'm looking for is some feedback to kind of show me that you guys have what level of understanding you guys have of what the role of a dispatcher is. Especially from this training's perspective, based off of what you knew prior to joining the training, as well as what you may have picked up in the training. So I will give anyone the floor to comment on that, and then we can expound on it so everyone can get an overall understanding or a perspective that we can come to an agreement under of what's the role of a dispatcher. You know, from whether you have your own truck that you're dispatching for, you have a trucking company, you may have several trucks you're dispatching for in your trucking company, or you may have one truck that you're dispatching for as an independent freight dispatcher. Are those roles the same? Are you doing the same things, the duties, the responsibilities, things like that? So who would like to start with that? Just give me an idea of what is your take or understanding of what the role of a dispatcher is. And whoever can, I know Miss Ruth can unmute her mic. I know Mike can too, but Chandria and Jacqueline, I'm not sure if they can unmute theirs. Okay, I hear someone.
Good morning. This is Chandria.
Hey, Chandria, how are you?
All right, and you?
Okay, and I'd like to welcome Carmen Sanchez again, and I see area code 404. That could be someone calling in. Someone may have logged in and didn't have their mic set up so they call in also. We get cases like that where people log in and call at the same time so they can be able to speak. So if one of you guys whose name is up here is that person under the 404, just let me know so I won't keep addressing the same person differently.
Hey, that's me. I'm new to the platform. My name is Shanier.
Your name is? What's your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Shanier. I'm trying to log on online right now, but it hasn't came up.
Oh, you're new to the platform in that you've joined. You mean a Facebook group or you've enrolled?
The Facebook group.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So the topic of today that I was going to go over with, I was going to get feedback from you guys, whether you are new as a guest joining in or not. Just want to get an idea of what is the role, or what's the role or roles, duties and responsibilities of a dispatcher, right? And I see that Jacqueline typed in, she says, schedule drivers to make deliveries and pick up packages or shipments. So does anyone care to expound on what Jackie, because I want to see what level of understanding you guys have based off of what you may have already know prior to either joining the Facebook group or actually enrolling into the Dispatcher 101 training, where you've actually paid to enroll and gotten access to our back office tools and resources. So Jacqueline says that schedule drivers to make deliveries and pick up packages or shipments. So now, in that statement, what are the steps involved in that? So we can break. If you want to get a clear understanding of what it is that we do, we probably want to break down what it is that we do, right? For everyone to see and be on the same page, on the same level, and understand. So to schedule drivers to make deliveries and pickups.
You had to reach out to a driver to see if they're available for delivery, right? Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Charles?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. This is Jacqueline. You have to find a driver and see if they're available for delivery, correct?
Correct. So when you say find a driver, so now, because you can look at dispatching from different perspectives. Based off of what you just said, you're looking at it from the perspective of an independent dispatcher, where you are finding your own drivers who have their owner-operators with their own MC authority and DOT, and you're dispatching for them independently. The other perspective could be if you're a dispatcher but you have your own trucking company where you have your own MC authority and you have owner-operators who are leased under your authority and you're dispatching for them because they're under your authority. Or if you have a trucking company and you have your own MC authority and DOT, then you could also have company drivers. You can also have your own truck and trailer. So let me open up a Word document for those who can see my screen so we can break this down a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you said, training topic today. What is today, the 19th? The role of a dispatcher. So now, what dispatcher are we speaking of? And if for any of these three roles, will the responsibilities be the same for each case? So the first case is an independent, and this is where Jacqueline just commented, independent freight dispatcher, this is someone who finds an owner-operator with their own MC authority, and you, as the dispatcher, find and book loads for them. Now, in each case, we're going to break that down exactly. I mean, how is that done? What are the steps? I'm just giving you, I'm just categorizing everything right now, and then we can break it down even further to give us a clearer understanding. So the first dispatching type will be an independent freight dispatcher, right? So we got this. All right. The second type would be a dispatcher for a trucking or your own trucking company that you own. Right. You got a trucking company by getting your MC authority, and you don't have any assets yet or truck and trailers, so you're leasing your authority to other owner operators, and then you're dispatching for those owner operators who are leased up under your authority. So the numbers there can be unlimited. And that's a way of getting around this notion of, well, dispatchers can only dispatch for one truck at a time. They can't dispatch for many trucks. Well, if I got my own MC authority, my own trucking company, I started my own trucking company.
I can't find my other statement.
And if I
can't find
hello, yes?
right now.
Oh, someone had a comment? In company with own authority, own MC authority, then you would lease your authority to owner operators who do not have an authority, and simply dispatch for them. Now, what's the limit? Is there a limit on that? Well, of course not. You can lease your authority to however many people you want under your company. They're not your assets, but you're leasing your authority. In other words, they're using your authority to run loads, and then they'll give you like a weekly settlement after the gross amount that they make on those loads. So say you got an owner-operator lease under your authority, and they're making $5,000 a week. You charge 15, 20% of that, so gross, you get 15, 20% of that number. The problem with that is, or the risk, I should say, is that if you do not vet these owner-operators out, there's a chance that they may do something that can potentially get your authority revoked by FMCSA, like accidents, CSA scores, just damaged freights, claims filed against your authority by shippers or receivers, things like that. So that is the risk that's involved with that one. And then the next way of dispatching, the role of a dispatcher, is, let's see, trucking company with own authority but no assets. Assets meaning, when I say no assets, I mean that you have your own trucking company with an MC authority, but you don't have your own tractor and trailer. You're leasing your authority to someone who owns their own tractor and trailer, but they don't have an authority. So that's number 2. And then number 3, trucking company. You have a trucking company, the dispatcher. So I should say dispatcher starts a trucking company. Let's do that. Dispatcher starts a trucking company with own authority and assets, which is tractor and trailers. However many. One, you can start with one tractor, one trailer, and then scale your business as you grow. So in this case, then you would simply dispatch for your company drivers because they're your assets. So whether you put in the truck, company drivers for your trucking company. All right, you guys, any comments so far on that? Questions? Do I need to break it down a little bit more? All right. Can everyone see that screen?
Yes.
Okay. So when we think of dispatching, there seems to be several variables or avenues or ways to come into it. So now, getting back to my initial question that I have for everyone, because I wanted to get some feedback from you guys, telling me your perspective, so I can have a clear understanding of what you guys understand and what you may or may not know. So my initial question to start off is, well, what is the role? What is the role of a dispatcher? And we can look at, hello everybody, Shanir, for Allison, everyone welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody. So what is the role of a dispatcher? And you can say, well, the role of a dispatcher can apply to any of the three areas here. It doesn't necessarily have to be independent of one particular area. It could be any of, because you can take the role, once we define what the role of a dispatcher is, then we can ask ourselves, well, can it be applied to an independent dispatcher? Can it be applied to someone who has a trucking company with no assets, or someone who's a dispatcher who starts a trucking company with their authority and they have assets? So are the roles the same across the three demographics of the dispatcher? So that's the question. And then the first question is, well, what is the role? What is the role of a dispatcher? So I think it was Jacqueline. She said schedule drivers to make deliveries and pick up packages and shipments. Does everybody agree with that? And can you expound? Can anyone expound on that?
Hello, Mr. Charles.
Hello, who is this?
Miss Truth.
Okay, Miss Ruth, how are you?
Finding you.
Okay.
Okay, for number one and number two, you still have to look for the drivers.
Right.
Number three,
right.
You have that already lined up because starting your own company with your assets, once that is established, you will still have to, one and two, you would still have to do the contract.
Right. So, okay. So hold that thought for a second. So number one, you said still have to find carriers, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then number 2, you also said still have to find carriers. Now, will finding those carriers be the same in both cases? Because I'm an independent dispatcher, as an independent dispatcher for number 1, I don't have an authority. I have to find carriers by doing what? Getting them under what?
The dispatcher's agreement.
And the profile, right?
Yes.
Dispatcher agreement and profile. Number 2, I have my authority, but no assets. So what I have to do now is set up I have to get them, not necessarily under a dispatch agreement, but under a lease, to lease under my authority. So a leasing contract, LPO, not LPO, I'm sorry, a leasing contract to lease under, still have to find carriers, I'll say, by having them agree to lease under my authority. So now the language changes, right? So the first one you just got a simple agreement and profile, and you guys just do that. The second one, because now there's a little bit more risk involved, you have to vet the carrier out for number 2, because it's the authority that's on the line. Number 1, you don't have an authority. You're using the authority of the carrier once you do the dispatcher agreement and profile. Under number 2, it is your authority that's being used by the owner operators who are leasing under your authority. So whatever your contract says, and I'm sure for those who are deciding to be a dispatcher that starts a trucking company with their own authority and want to dispatch for a number of trucks by having them lease under your authority, if they want to take the route of number 2, then you would set up your contract accordingly, you will have the verbiage state certain things in it that would reflect and benefit the processes and ways of your business. So, but that you made a good point for the first one. I mean, when you said that for number 1 and 2, you still have to find carriers, and then number 3, you don't, because you just hire. So let's go here. You still have to find carriers for number 3, but you would hire company drivers. So they're company drivers now instead of carriers and owner operators. So you still vet them out too. You hire them based off of certain criteria, and then you just bring them on under your company. Your pay scale is going to change how you pay a company driver as opposed to how an owner operator gets paid. It's very different. So anything else? So the role of a dispatcher, you said number 1, Ms. Ruth, you said you still got to find the carriers. So yeah, you can't dispatch if you don't have carriers. So all right, so anything else?
You would have to, for number 3, you have to do their tax information. Like pretty much like what you said, you're hiring drivers now. You have to research their debt report to pretty much vet them out, and then have them sign their tax paperwork. Okay,
so let's look at it. And you're right on the tax part, but let's look at it from the role of just dispatching only. The tax part will come in, but just dispatching only. We do have to find the carrier, but as far as like once you get the carrier and you have to get loads, book loads, process all that stuff. So from the actual leg work of being a dispatcher, I know the tax part that comes later on, but as far as the leg work of doing the dispatcher, according to these 3 ways, what would be some other points in the role of a dispatcher that may apply to all three or may apply to one or the other?
I think all three needs a profile.
Okay. Well, number one needs a profile because you need to understand how they want to run because you're an independent freight dispatcher. Number two, you're leasing the person under your authority. So you can either allow them to find their own loads or you can find the loads for them. So if you do the latter part, you find the loads for them, and of course you need to know their profile, how they want to run. If you let them find their own loads and you just charge 20% weekly settlement after they get all their loads booked and turn in their BOLs, then you let them find their own loads and be responsible for their own backhauls and things like that. So, but if you want to completely manage those trucks, those owner-operators under your trucking company's authority, then yes, you need a profile.
Okay. Then the next thing is to get on the load boards and find loads.
Yep, and I'm assuming that applies to all three, right? Every one of those need loads, right?
Yes.
So this is the role of the dispatcher, right?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that everybody's following this, and whoever else want to comment and chime in, they can. So we categorize the different dispatcher levels, I guess you would say, or types. You could be a dispatcher you could have a person who has a trucking company and leasing their own authority, and they're dispatching those non-asset-based owner-operators under their authority. An independent freight dispatcher, and then the third one, a trucking company with their own authority and their own assets, and they're dispatching those company drivers. So in each case, you are dispatching, right? And you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be doing the carrier package, the rate confirmations, talking to the brokers or shippers directly. So we haven't even gotten into that. I just wanted to make sure that, you guys have an understanding or provide me some feedback of what the role of a dispatcher is. So you said find loads, right? So yes. Finding loads applies to all three, right?
Yes.
Now, is there a how in all three? How do you find loads in all three of them? Are they different or are they consistent in the ways that you find loads? And I want you to think about that, right? And not just you. I don't want to say like I'm targeting. I'm just saying you seem to be the only one participating right now. So I think everyone else is listening, which is cool.
Well, number 3, I think is different because you have more trucks, and you could get a lane or a direct shipper. You could have. I'll use like the route that I was on was Georgia Pacific.
Okay.
And
so number 1, how do we finding loads? Where's the how at for number 1? Is it load boards?
Load boards.
And maybe Miss Jacqueline said find loads based on the equipment type, the truck type. So yes, that is correct. So find load boards, and you might have brokers. You can say direct relationships with brokers. I would say shippers too. It's going to be hard as an independent dispatcher to get loads from a direct shipper for your carriers, because the shippers are looking for, they're looking to deal directly with the carriers or the brokers. So if you are an independent freight dispatcher who is trying to dispatch for them, now you can use your carrier's MC, but if you are, let's say you're an independent dispatcher and you have a trucking company that you're dispatching for and they have 10 assets, that may look attractive to the shipper. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shippers in there too, because that could be a scenario there. So under this second one, finding loads, the how in that, of course, you're still going to use the load boards. You're going to always seem to be using load boards, either for backhaul or line haul going out. So, so a trucking company with their own authority but no assets. So you're dispatching for owner-operators who are leased under your authority. So load boards and direct, same thing, right? Brokers, shippers.
Right.
Right? Let me check these comments here before I hit number 3. Yeah, Mike says shippers, shippers, and more shippers for all 3. Right. So for a trucking company that has their own assets, of course, finding loads, obviously, again, load boards, brokers, shippers. And with the trucking company with their own assets, you want to probably more go after the shippers directly, especially if you have like 10 or more, or the more assets you have, the more attractive to the shippers you become and look. And it just looks like you can accommodate their capacity. These are the words that you're going to hear out here. You can accommodate shippers' capacity with your asset-based trucking company, then shippers will be more willing to give you an opportunity to get set up with them if those shippers deal with direct carriers. If they deal with brokers, then you will have to go through the broker to get those shipper loads. You guys follow that?
Yes.
Okay. So now we find loads. So once you find the loads, you gotta book the loads, right? This is a role. This is a role of a dispatcher. So now the how in that. So booking the loads involve what is involved in booking a load? What are the 2 main things? I'll just say the 2 main things. What are the 2 main things involved in booking a load?
Contacting the broker.
As far as paperwork is concerned, what are the 2 things? I'm typing it down as I'm asking.
The broker carrier packet.
Right. The carrier packet and the rate confirmation. So the carrier packet, another name for the carrier packet is what's called the broker carrier agreement. Right? Have you guys seen one of those, what they look like?
Yes.
Has anyone not seen what a carrier packet? I can show you one right now. So if anyone has not seen what a broker carrier packet looks like, we can easily go to our back office tools and resources under forms and documents and give a sample template of, Robert says, please show. We give a sample template of what one looks like. And this is, the broker carrier agreements are going to look different, but some of the verbiage and some of the base information is pretty standard. Okay? It shows what the carrier's role is, what the broker's role is. It talks about insurance, talks about payment methods. It talks about detention, if anything. So here's carrier packet, here's rate confirmation. So I'm going to click carrier packet and rate confirmation. So I'm going to go to, so if everyone can see my screen, this is a broker carrier agreement. You'll hear broker carrier agreement or carrier packet. Those are synonymous terms. They mean the same thing. So when you first fill it out, the first page you'll fill out, you'll put the date, day, and the year. The agreement between the broker's name go there, that's the broker, and the carrier name or trucking company, they'll list, ABC Trucking, XYZ Brokerage. And then it says, whereas the broker, this is their name now, this is the carrier's name. Carrier represents and warrants that, and then all this information here. You can read through it, gloss through it. Broker responsibilities, what they're supposed to do, like payment rates, the payments, their payment methods. Like a broker, if most brokers have factoring companies, but they also have other payment method types. Quick pay, which is through their factory. The ACH transfer, which is 5 to 7 days, they'll charge a percentage for that. They'll charge a percentage for the quick pay because they want to offset the cost that they're being charged by their factory company. That's just how it works. It's a numbers game. And then the paper check, which is like some brokers pay 15 days out, some pay 30 days out, some pay 45 days out. But if your carrier has their own factory company, you need not worry about that because they'll get paid sooner. And then it talks about the carrier's responsibility. Their equipment types, keeping it up to, up to speed, up to year, up to date. How they're supposed to do the bill of lading, fill it out, get it back to the broker once stuff gets delivered. What to do in case of loss and damages, how to call the broker if there's an accident, if you have a flat tire. There's certain things that the carrier is supposed to do, certain things that the broker is supposed to do in this broker-carrier agreement. That's the whole point of the agreement. It is an understanding between the carrier and the broker while they're under that load and other loads going forward for that brokerage, as long as your carrier is what's called, quote-unquote, set up with that brokerage, right? The insurance requirements and things like that. You've got some miscellaneous stuff. Non-exclusive agreement. In other words, your carrier can't, while they're under the load or working with that broker, they can't take information off BOLs like shipper information and receiver information and sell that information to other people. It is not, you can't do that. It's a conflict of interest. So, and then Mike makes a good point too. All of this stuff that you see here in this paper version of the broker-carrier agreement is now, some companies are catching up to technology, and then here at the bottom, you have the broker side to sign and the carrier side to sign. Most companies now are integrating what's called the RMIS system carrier package, which is done online. That is the registry monitoring insurance system. It is an online / onboarding process that makes filling out this broker carrier agreement a little bit more quicker. And then you just simply upload documents that the broker needs to get you set up or your carrier set up with that company, with that brokerage. And what are 3 main documents that will be uploaded into the RMS system if you do it online, or that you as the dispatcher or your carrier needs to send back to the broker in order to get set up? What are those 3 documents?
MC authority,
Mm-hmm.
certificate of insurance,
Yep.
and W-9.
Ding, 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 ding. Who was that, Miss Ruth?
Yes, and one more.
There is one more. So, what is that?
NOA.
NOA. So what does NOA stand for?
Notice of assignment.
Oh, Lord, who's that? That's Mike from the Shaolin Temple. Notice of assignment. So if your carrier has a factory company, the purpose of the notice of assignment is kind of a safety net for your carrier to protect them, because they want to make sure that the broker doesn't have any red flags on their end. So the notice of assignment is filled out by the broker side, sent back to you to give to your carrier so they can give it to the factory company so they can run the credit on the broker, because your factory company is trying to look out for you. So if they run the credit, they see that there's a red flag on this brokerage that you're about to get set up with, saying, hey, man, these guys don't like to pay until like 60 days out or whatever, or they have a lot of red flags, a lot of complaints about them not wanting to pay or not fulfilling their obligations at the brokerage, you may want to reconsider getting set up with them. So your factory company is kind of helping you in that regard. Depending on the type of factory that your carrier has, there are 2 types, recourse and non-recourse, one of which, I get the 2 confused, but one of which protects your carrier more so than the other in the event that the broker reneges on trying to pay on time. Then the factory company goes after them as far as small claims court, filing against their bond with the Federal Bond Service, putting their broker authority under a microscope and things like that. So the one that does all that, the type, whether it's recourse or non-recourse, it'll be the larger percentage rate for that factory company. factoring company charges anywhere between 1 to 5%. So the 1 to 2 to 3% may be the lesser of the two, and then the one that does more services for your carrier is maybe the 3 up to 4 or 5%, which makes sense. The more your factoring company does for you, it's just a business, the more I'm going to charge to kind of compensate my service. The same thing for us as dispatchers. The more we do, then the more we want to be compensated for. That's just the nature of business. So, but anyway, so getting back to the Word document here. So booking the load, carrier package, rate confirmation. So I'm going to put in parentheses or sub-parentheses, I guess, those documents that you guys just listed. W-9, COI, which is Certificate of Insurance, NC, Authority, and NOA. Right? So those are the ones there. And then, so once you get the carrier packet filled out, whether it's paper method or whether it's RMIS, Registry Monitoring Insurance System or Service, and you send those documents in, whether you upload them through the online feature or you mail them back, attach them or however, fax them in, the broker is going to process that information through, run it by their compliance team to see if all these things meet their requirements. And yeah, Mike, good point, Mike. Yeah, I didn't know the difference. I know it's two of them, but I get too confused every time. So it's non-recourse, 5%. So they're going to take all this information, make sure that your insurance is up to date, your authority is active and in line, and they're going to fill out the NOA, give it back to you so you can give it to your factoring company. Make sure your W-9 is current. So, and they're going to call, the broker's going to call you, the dispatcher, or the trucking company's representative, or you have an assistant there, and they're going to say, hey, your carrier is all set up with us. We can go ahead and send a rate confirmation for the load. So now the rate confirmation is for that specific load that you possibly were looking at on a load board. Make sure when you get a rate confirmation back, then you would make sure, and here's what a rate confirmation looks like. Now it's pretty, some of the features on the rate confirmation, just like some of the features on the carrier packet are pretty standard, some of the features on the rate confirmation are pretty standard. You're going to always have a shipper where you're going to pick up the address of the shipper, where it's picking up, the load, the date, time. You can always have a consignee or a receiver where it's being delivered to, the date, time on all the rate confirmations. You're always going to have a load number because when your carrier gets to the shipper to pick up a load, they have to reference it by a load number or a reference number. In this case, it has both. You may even have a BOL number. You're going to have a piece count, pallet count, weight, of course, the carrier's name, their phone number. You're going to have the commodity on there, what you're actually hauling. Sometimes you will, sometimes you will not. And then depending on if there's extra stops, you're going to have other things on here. Okay? Any questions so far? All right. So that's the rate confirmation. So the load is officially booked once that rate confirmation is signed by your dispatching company or the carrier and sent back to the broker, sent in that load is booked now, and you're prepared to have your carrier go pick that load up. So I'm going to copy this because this booking the load can apply to this one as well. What about number 3? If you got your own, it could also apply to this one too. Okay? So what happens if your carrier goes to, or the carrier's on their way after they've signed the rate con, send it back to the broker, and the broker, say, okay, the load is ready to be picked up. The carrier's driving there. He's an hour out from picking the load up, and then the broker calls your dispatching company and tells you that the shipper canceled that load. while your carrier is on the way to get that load. As a dispatcher, what would you do in that situation? I think Mike just typed it in. Mike typed it in, TONU. So does anyone else understand what that TONU means? What TONU means is truck ordered, not used. So what that means is the truck was booked for a load, but it never was used for the load. So there is, and in some carrier packets, there is a clause in the carrier packets that the broker lists a certain percentage or a certain dollar value that they will pay in cases like that, when loads get canceled while they gotten booked and then while the carrier's on the way to pick the load up from the shipper. Those are just circumstances as a dispatcher that you're going to have to understand and look out for. So Mike is saying that reefers they'll pay you $250. Flatbeds and dry vans, they'll pay you $150, $150. So, and it depends, right? So what are the other roles? So this is like the generic kind of roles of the dispatcher, right? We get the carriers, find the carriers, we find the loads, we book the loads. Now, as an independent, invoice carrier for our percentage, right? Because we have to get paid. Dispatchers need to be paid, right? Dispatchers need to be paid for their service. Right. Agreed? So now, what about numbers 2 and 3 on the if you have how you pay if you have a dispatcher, you're a dispatcher who started a trucking company with your own MC authority, but you're leasing your authority. Let me underline this. You're leasing your authority to owner-operators. So for you to get paid, if you were smart, you would invoice what's called invoice factor. You would get a factoring company, and then when the leased on owner-operator sends their BOL to you, you would just factor that through your factoring company, and then take your percentage out or your gross weekly settlement, and then give the rest to the carrier. Or you would have your factory company do that for you. Set it up where it's automated. So as soon as you would set up all the parameters between your company and the factory company, saying, okay, I'm charging 20%, I'm charging 15%. So when I send you a BOL and I send you the bank information for the carrier and the bank information for me, you take your percentage out for your factoring service, and then you take 20% of the gross and transfer that to my account, and then transfer the rest to the carrier. So now it's automated. So invoice factoring through your factoring company, which can be automated based off of your conditions. You guys follow that?
So, Charles, this is Allison. If you're dispatching your own truck, that means that your dispatch fee and your your lease fee is combined and taken off. You take it off the top.
If you're saying number 3, so if you have your own trucking company and you have your own assets, your own tractor and trailer.
No, I'm talking about number 2. Aren't you leasing? Aren't you leasing the truck and dispatching it as well?
No. If you have your own trucking company, say you start a trucking company, so you get the way to start a trucking company is simple. All you have to do is just go through the process of getting your MC authority, all the insurance requirements, things like that. So once it becomes active, you don't have any assets. So you go to advertise your trucking company and say, I got ABC or Allison Trucking. I'm looking for owner-operators to lease under my authority. And you get about 20 calls that day. You go through your vetting process. You discover you got 5 of them that met all of your qualifiers to work under your authority. Okay. So you got those 5 owner-operators running under your authority, right? So now you are and they want you to manage them, or they call it manage them, but if you manage them, you are also dispatching for them. So you can charge. Let's say you charge 25% then, because you want your dispatching fee and the fee you're going to charge to lease under your authority all to be rolled into one lump sum, right? So you can say I'll charge 25%, 20% to lease under my authority, 5% to charge to dispatch for you to manage your trucks. Because you could give them an option in the contract when you set up to lease under your authority. You could say I'll charge you 20% to lease under my authority, and you dispatch your own trucks. You just pay me 20% of your weekly settlement, your weekly gross revenue. Let's say you make $5,000. Let's get a calculator out. So you got trucking, and you put this verbiage in your contract. You give them the option, right? You say, okay, you can lease under my authority, and I don't manage your trucks. You manage your own trucks. You dispatch your own trucks. I'll charge you 20%, right, of every week. Let's just say they made $5,000. So that's $1,000 a week you're getting just for them to lease under your authority. Now remember, there are risks involved in that, right? They can do something that can damage or get your authority revoked based off of their behavior, accidents, claims filed against them, CSA scores, inspection dings, all types of stuff, right? But that's the risk you take for the reward you're going to get. That's just business, right? Or that's option 1. You can 20% to just lease under my authority. Option 2, 25%, 20% of which you lease under my authority, 5% of which I manage your trucks. In other words, I dispatch your trucks while you're leasing under my authority. So now your number went up, right? So now it's $1,250 a week on a $5,000. I mean, of course, I'm just giving a small number. They can make more. They can make 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 a week, depending on how they run and where they run, and they get dedicated lanes, things like that. So as the owner operator, or as you find, if you are managing them, then it'll be a good idea for you to get them under dedicated load, because that's guaranteed money. Because you're managing them and they're leasing under your authority. So if you can find them a dedicated run, you just sit back and collect the money and manage the truck, of course. You're just not going to take a blind eye off of them. You still want to manage them, but you're not worried about finding loads because you're under dedicated loads. The only thing you may need a load board for is backhaul. But the verbiage in the contract, if you're going to take option 2 as a dispatcher, let's say you start your own trucking company, and you have your own authority, but you have no assets, your contract can be structured in this way. You can say, okay, here's my pay scale, here's my structure, my contract. You lease, in both cases, you're going to lease under my authority. I'm going to charge 20% or 15% or whatever your number you come up with, based off of the need of your company, based off of the living conditions, and based off of the taxes in your state. However that's determined. I just use 20% as an example. So 20% for the base leasing of the authority, an extra 5% if my company is going to manage your trucks. In other words, dispatch. So Follow?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I was under, let's see, invoicing. Invoicing through, because this is a role of the dispatcher, invoicing. Under the independent dispatcher, you just simply send them an invoice, whether it's PayPal, Square, Invoice.com, QuickBooks, however you invoice your carriers once that BOL is turned in. Factory, you would, under your trucking company without assets, with or without assets, you should probably just do invoice factoring. Because if you have a trucking company, whether you have your own tractor and trailers or you're leasing your authority to owner operators, it'll be a good idea to get a factoring company to help you receive payments. It'll just make your life a whole lot easier because you can have the factoring company structure your payments to you based off of when they receive the BOLs from the carriers. You can just say, put a note to the carriers or let them know once they deliver, send it to this link or put this app on your phone, upload your BOL to this location. Or when you get back to the central hub, we can scan your BOLs and send them to the factoring companies, and you'll get paid within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours at the latest. So it just streamlines the process a little bit. So what are we missing anything from this role of a dispatcher? What are some other roles that, whether it's independent freight dispatcher, whether it's a dispatcher who has their own trucking company and are just leasing their authority to owner operators and they're managing those trucks for them, or if you have a trucking company with your own tractor and trailer and you're dispatching your own trucks. So are there any other roles that are missing in these three phases, or in these three types, or ways to dispatch? I think it's kind of concise here, though. I mean, just break it down a little bit more, because most people were thinking, well, the only way I can dispatch is like an independent freight dispatcher. No, that's not true. You know, this is the one that gets the most criticism, the independent freight dispatcher, because most people think that we are I'm going to put that in parentheses too. We are glorified brokers, right? We're trying to get around the fact that we don't need an authority to dispatch. These two are perfectly, there won't be no, number 2 and number 3, there's no questions whatsoever as far as legality is concerned. Number 1, there is a gray area, but it's in the statute, but it's just the wording in the statute that kind of makes it appear like it's a gray area. They use the word bona fide agent, which is what a dispatcher pretty much is. And they also mention that you're only supposed to be dispatching for one carrier at a time. So now I don't know how true that is. Can you imagine how many years that's been in play and all these dispatching companies up here that are dispatching for so many trucks? So let's say you completely ignore number 1 and you go into the realm of number 2 and 3, then you'll be perfectly fine. How many trucks can you dispatch for your own trucking company, whether you have assets or not? It would be easier to have a trucking company with no assets and you lease, let's say you lease to 20 owner-operators under your authority. They've all met your criteria. They're all safe. And you also manage those trucks. You manage 20 trucks that are leased under your own authority, but they're not your assets. So you're dispatching for 20 trucks. That should be more than enough to keep you busy. Yeah. So, and then this one here is probably the most, number 3 is the most challenging one, because you have a trucking company, you have your own tractor and trailers. So then you got one, and then if you want to scale your business, you're going to have to spend money to get another tractor and trailer. So maybe your first tractor and trailer, as it runs loads, maybe it gets dedicated lanes, it'll pay for your next tractor and trailer, and then so on and so forth. So as you build your clientele base, maybe your shipper base, you can add more assets to your company. So that may take more time. So the easiest entry point more than likely would be the independent one, because you don't have any large expenses to worry about. All you have to do is just get a carrier under a dispatcher agreement and profile, just one carrier starting off with, run that carrier, and then the way to scale as a independent dispatcher, let's say you run somebody give me an equipment type, dry van, flatbed, or reefer.
Reefer.
Okay, so a reefer. So you got one reefer, you're in the Midwest, you're at a reefer for on this good broker, back and forth, 2 brokers, one going out and one coming back with a backhaul. You're like, man, this is paying good. So I think I'm going to scale my business. Wouldn't it make sense to get another reefer carrier and put that reefer carrier in the same lane as the first carrier is in? That just makes your job a whole lot easier. And let's say you do that 5 times. So you got 5 reefer carriers running the same lane for the same broker's loads going out and for the same broker's load coming back. 5 carriers. You can make a decent living right there. They bringing you, let's say you're charging 10%, and you're getting paid off of each BOL. So you're getting paid going out and you're getting paid on the backhaul. So let's say that amount total is $8,000. So now, for, let's say, I don't know, 5 going up, 3 coming back. It's going to be disproportionate because the line haul is more than the backhaul. That's just a true statement. It pays more going out than it does coming back. Everybody knows that. Well, not everybody, but it's a general understanding that backhaul pays less than the line haul. Line haul is when you first pick up from the shipper and you take to the receiver. Backhaul is getting something coming out, okay, for those who don't know. So let's say 5,000, 6,000 going up, 2,000 coming back, 8,000 total. 10% of 8,000 is 800. You got 5 carriers, 800 times 5. You're getting paid per week. That's $4,000 a week for you, the dispatcher, for 5 carriers that you're managing under brokers, which you already have good loads for. You don't even have to go on the load boards anymore. You already got the brokers. You got the brokers going up. You got the brokers coming back. But remember, you have to build to that point first. That's not going to happen overnight. I want to be clear. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to build to that. But if you happen to stumble upon a good broker that got some good loads for your equipment type going out, and then coming back, you find a good backhaul coming back, you just continue to put trucks, equipment types similar for that lane. Just keep it going. As much as you feel that you can manage. If you can manage 5 trucks in the same lanes, line haul and backhaul, then continue to do that. Carmen said, based on your experience, what's the time expectancy to complete this process between all parties, meaning calls, emails, forms, etc.? Oh, as far as booking the load, can you unmute yourself, Carmen, please?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes. How are you?
I'm good.
You meant as far as the booking process for the whole workflow of getting the carrier, or I'm sorry, finding the load, booking it, and picking up and delivering, stuff like that, or?
Yes, like at least between the dispatcher and the carriers and brokers and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make sure I understand your question correctly. So as far as the time process for getting your carrier as a dispatcher, or the time process once you have a carrier for finding a load, booking a load, going through that process to its completion?
Remind you, I'm new at this. I have no experience whatsoever, so that's why you may not understand my question. But like say a driver like just sitting in New York and he's ready to go anywhere in the States, and now it's my job to get him a load and so forth. Well,
okay.
Like, how much time do I have to tell him, okay, here, we all set, go?
Right. It depends on, okay, the equipment type, how realistic this driver is as far as, you know, where he wants to go with that equipment type, how realistic his cents per mile, because sometimes drivers will give you a cents per mile in their profile, so when you go to look for loads, you're never going to find loads for that cents per mile because it's unrealistic, because you have an idea based off of the equipment type what certain cents per mile for those equipment types are. So if you, for example, a reaper right now is about close to $3 a mile. So if you got a driver saying, I want a $5 a mile load, and you're trying to find a $5 a mile load for that driver, you're going to be all day trying to find it for, because it's unrealistic. So those type of drivers I learned over time to kind of stay away from, because they either, number one, have no idea what they're talking about, or number two, trying to test you or frustrate you. You know, so as a dispatcher, or role of a dispatcher, we may want to include this is education. We have to understand, if we're going to be dealing with the 3 equipment types, we need to understand the demographics of those equipment types, meaning what, for certain areas of the country, what those equipment types are paying going in all directions, right? Whether it's east or west, north and south. So, for example, a dry van in certain regions, like in the Midwest, may pay more than it would going to the south or going out west. So as a dispatcher, over time, as you deal with drivers and brokers and load boards, you'll see that, and you'll start to discover, you'll pick up on patterns. Okay, I know. So when you're on the phone talking to a carrier who happens to be a dry van, and you try to get them under a dispatch agreement, you're saying, well, how much you need to move your truck? What's your cents per mile? And they'll say, I want $4 a mile. You're gonna say, okay, well, the going rate right now, the market says, the spot market says that the rates for dry vans is no more than $225, $230 a mile. I can't see that I can find you, unless you're gonna stay local, like go 50 miles for like $500 or $300. Then you might jump into that. But if you're an OTR driver over the road, you're not getting that. That's just not going to happen. And they're going to see that you know that. Then they're going to probably change their tune and come back down to earth and start giving you real numbers now. But the overall process, to answer your question, is depends on, as far as getting the carriers under a dispatch agreement, it depends on how dedicated you are in that process and the methods you use to get them, whether it's cold calling, whether it's going to the truck stops locally within your radius, 25 miles, 20 miles, 15 miles. It depends on the motivation of the dispatcher, the person that you want, of you, the dispatcher. So that's that part. So then after you get the carrier under an agreement and the profile and all their documents back, the next thing you got to do now is take the profile that they gave you, that you received from them when you got the dispatch agreement and profile, and then you cater your load search according to the profile, assuming that the profile is realistic, right? So that's the thing too. It has to be a realistic profile. You can't say I want to go with a driver, I want $5 a mile, and I only want to stay, 20 miles from my house. No. So, so after you get the carrier under agreement, then it depends on the reality of the profile. Finding those loads shouldn't be a problem. You just got to understand how to navigate the load boards. And, if you are part of this profile, if you're part of this platform, I can do my best to show you that. That's not a problem, based off of my experience and understanding of how to find spot, because all we're doing on the load board is finding what's called spot market loads. These are spot market loads. Contracted loads are the ones that we get from direct shippers. Those are contracted loads. The spot market loads is where all the brokers just put their loads on the load boards, and whatever you, for lack of a better word, spot, you try to book. So then after that, Carmen, let's say you found the load that met your carrier's criteria, and you found that within like an hour or two, because you were looking for different loads, you were researching, So an hour or two. A day at the most, but I doubt it, because if you're part of this platform and you're in our Facebook chat group, we usually, if you put something in the chat group, we have other people who look for loads for each other, and we'll put them in our Facebook chat group. We'll help you find loads. So, I mean, you'll be part of a family if you decide to join this platform. But let's say you found a load. The main thing now is talking to the broker and booking that load. That process can take anywhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the technology and what process the broker uses to send you all the paperwork you need to fill out, meaning the carrier packet and the rate confirmation. If they are not using an online process, it takes as long as it takes for you to fill that out, manually, because they're going to send you a PDF attached to an email. So if you have a PDF filler or a DocuSign that you can download that to and electronically sign that and get it back to them, that's fine. Otherwise, I used to print it out, fill it out, rescan it, and send it back when I first started. And then when we got the RMIS systems from these different brokers, you just click a link and go to their website, fill out a few fields, and then upload your documents and send it in. So that was even shorter, about 20 minutes. And then that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
Hi, Charles. It's Sarwa.
Hey, Sarwa.
Hi. I have a question regarding filling out the packet. For instance, this system that you mentioned, the RMIS system, as well as anything that you're filling out, there's part of the carrier agreement with the broker that the carrier needs to sign, because you can't sign on their behalf. I mean, you can do other stuff on their behalf, correct? But you can't actually sign their name to it. Or is that part of the agreement as well? When they do the carrier does the dispatch carrier agreement, that you are an agent for them, are you able to sign on their behalf, or is that something that they still need to do?
Now, if you don't have a what's called a POA, like a power of attorney document, or if you don't have it in your dispatcher agreement that the carrier gave you permission to do so, then you initially send that packet to the carrier and let them fill it out. But at some point, the carrier is going to get tired of doing that, because their job is to focus on driving. If they got to fill out all the carrier packets all the time, then what's the point of having a dispatcher?
Correct.
Right?
And so
if I'm a carrier, that's the logic I'm using. So my carriers used to give me verbal and text message confirmation saying go ahead and do it, and then I went one step further. In my dispatcher agreement template in the back office, I put a little clause added to the dispatcher agreement right here where I'm highlighting carrier authorizes dispatcher to complete carrier setup package, which is the broker carrier agreement, for any and all brokerages on carrier's behalf, as well as complete any and all rate cons or rate confirmations on carrier's behalf, and then the carrier initial that there, in addition to signing the original dispatch agreement. This little clause here, according to my attorney, says that covers POA. That he's giving you authorization by initial right here. It's documented now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was just wondering if that includes, if that serves as a power of attorney, and that includes putting their name to that document.
Yeah. So you have what's called express and implied consent from a carrier to a dispatcher. You can give it to you in two ways: express or implied. So they can say, yeah, go ahead and do it for me, verbally, text, or in a dispatch agreement. I just made the job easier for them. I said, all you got to do now is just initial that. And then also for me, and then once you guys get to this point where you have your dispatcher agreement online, like I got mine in an online form, I'm going to show it to you, where I have a checkbox on my dispatcher agreement online form through my web portal, where, scroll down here, they're going to fill it out here, and I just send them a link. And they fill out here, right here, check. They check this box right there. I consent to having the carrier packets and rate confirmations completed by Exodus Dispatching Associates on my behalf. And then I got a place here to upload the documents, and of course they sign it, you know, boom, 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 boom. And then they hit submit. I'm going to clear that real quick so it won't do anything, and then that too. So this is my dispatcher agreement one, and then under that is the carrier profile. So I have an online form through my web portal. I did all this myself. I designed it. And the fields with the asterisks are required fields, of course. Your profile, you definitely want to know what equipment type, what weight limitations, how much they need to move their trucks. In other words, what is the least cents per mile you are willing to accept per load. They're going to say $2 a mile, $2.50, you know, whatever. And then other information. And then again, they sign it, you know, and then hit submit. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, you did perfectly. And that also reduces the time spent to finish everything, because now you don't still have to contact the carrier to get that paperwork back as well. So that,
right.
that speeds up the whole process. Okay, perfect.
And with my online form of dispatch agreement and profile, this speeds it up even more, because they could just do this on their phone. All I got to do is just send them a link to the agreement and the profile, and they click the link, open it up on their phone. They could be filling out this dispatch agreement while they're waiting to get loaded and unloaded. Hit submit. It's going to send me an email verification. There's my dispatch agreement. There's my profile. So at some point, you guys will have a website and an online form to kind of streamline your business and make it more efficient, effective and efficient. But right now, it's just starting off. Like I said, you build in stages and degrees to where you want your business to be. And my website and templates are kind of like examples for you guys of how to do it. I'm not saying mine is the best. I'm just giving you an idea of what you can do to make it a little bit more streamlined for you. You know,
I'm sorry. Is this template, for instance, that you're using for your agreements, is that also done through Wix? Through
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is actually a Wix form builder inside of the Wix platform. I go into because I'm the webmaster for my website, so I go into the back office of the website, and I've paid Wix for the ability to have a Wix. It's called Epic Builder, and I designed it and put the fields in there and labeled them, and then put the ability to put information in, and I connected the Epic Builder form to my company email, Exodus Logistics.
Okay.
So whenever someone hits submit, it sends an email to me showing who just filled out. I mean, we can do one as an example just to show you that it works, but that's how it's done. The same thing with I had a sub dispatcher form. When people wanted to be sub dispatcher, I need to start that back up. I got to get fresh carriers to have those. Those of you who are enrolled subscription-based members who are having a hard time finding carriers, I haven't been working with it recently, but I have started a sub dispatcher kind of a program where I get the carriers, and then you guys fill out the sub dispatcher form, and then you just dispatch for the carriers, and we split the commission, 5% each, because I charge 10%. So, and then you do that until the point where, okay, Charles, I got my own carriers, and I don't need to dispatch your carriers anymore, so I'll go ahead and keep my own 10%, all of 10%. So, but that's the sub dispatcher agreement under Exodus, but it's all under the Wix Epic Form Builder feature under the Wix.com platform. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So now. So what else are we missing from the role of a dispatcher as an overview? I mean, do we think we got everything from just high? This is just high level. We can break all this stuff down, and I'm probably gonna save this and more than likely make it available as a PDF on the website for the members, the subscription-based members. But because you got to find carriers, you got to find loads, you got to book the loads, you got to invoice. That's the independent. As a trucking company with the own authority but no assets, Still got to get your carriers, whether by having them lease under your authority. Still find the loads, whether it's load boards, direct brokers, and shippers, and then book the loads and then invoice through factoring company. And then you set up your factoring company to automate that process by, once they receive the BOL from the carrier, they're going to send the monies to the accounts of the carrier and your trucking company based off of the percentage that you set for them, and then they're going to take their percentage off the top. So you can automate that process. So the moment the carrier scans the BOLs to you, then you send that email scanned BOL to your factoring company along with your banking account information and the carrier's banking account information, so they can get paid, instantly. And the same thing for number 3. So is there anything else we're missing from the role of a dispatcher for any of the 3 categories that anybody can think of? Or do you think we may have covered it from a high level? Because we can take each of those sub-entries for each one and break it down even further. But I just wanted to see what your guys' understanding of what the roles of a dispatcher are, no matter how or which way you go. Everybody's good on that? Any questions? This was an interesting training today. I was looking for some feedback, and that's cool. Seeing what you guys is, because I wanted to kind of assess. This is also for me actually, because I wanted to assess how much you know, so I can decide how much more I need to add to the training platform, Dispatcher 101 for Beginners. So based off of your responses, I needed to see what other basic level training I can add to the training. So Shanir, I think that's, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. What brought you to this? Did someone invite you, or did you see us on YouTube?
I seen you on YouTube.
Okay. Are you interested in transportation industry as a dispatcher, freight broker, freight agent, or?
Yes, I'm interested in the transportation industry as a dispatcher and a trucking company. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to start your own trucking company?
That is correct. I'm already in the process of that now. So.
Okay.
Most likely, the route that I will be taking will probably be option number 2 at this time, dispatching and starting with my own authority, but leasing out.
So the YouTube name, this was right on time for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is right on. So you see how God works? That's right on time. So as a dispatcher, so you are, did you apply with for your authority with FMCSA.gov?
Not yet, but that's something that I plan to be working on this week.
Yeah, those are the considerations. You would go to the FMCSA.dot.gov website, and then there should be a link on the left hand for those who are trying to start their or carrier authority. You want to start a trucking company. So, and then you would follow the prompts. It's a one-time $300 non-refundable processing fee to apply for carrier or broker authority. It's still a one-time $300 non-refundable processing fee, but it's worth it. You'll get that and multiply it exponentially. So yeah, this was right on time for you. So this is the process. So you're gonna, and this is easier for you because you just get your own authority, and then at some point, are you going to get assets for your company, or you're just gonna stay leasing owner operators under your authority?
My plan is to get my own assets eventually.
Okay.
Yes.
And have you decided what equipment types those mean?
Most likely reefer and our dry vans are both.
Okay. So what area of the country do you live? Are you based out of?
My business is based in Georgia.
Okay, so you're in the southeast.
Yeah.
So to help make that decision, I'm sure you've done your research and say, okay, well, what are the commodities down there in that area that ship out a lot? There's a lot of distribution centers. So Georgia, I think there's a main distribution center. I think it's in Tifton. I think it's called.
For Target, I think.
Yeah, Target is down. I think it's in Tifton, Georgia. There's a huge. Cause every time my carriers come out of Florida, they always hit Tifton to grab a load because they've been in Florida forever, and it's hard to get out of Florida. That's another thing too. As a dispatcher, you have to be familiar with some of the dead zones. Like you may send a carrier on a good paying load to an area, but getting them out of that area may be a challenge. And one of those states is Florida. There are others, just for example, Florida. So yeah, Mike said, yeah, Georgia is a hot state for freight. So now it's a hot state for freight, Mike. So now she said reefers and dry vans. I think there's flatbed loads down there too, but there's reefer loads down there, and of course dry vans are down there forever. So she has she's in a good area. She's in the Mecca, Atlanta, and then Charlotte is coming around too. So and Atlanta to Charlotte is not that far away, northeast a little bit. Well, straight north actually, but Charlotte's becoming a new Atlanta of 89, 90, 91. So as a dispatcher in a trucking company, you would begin to research and understand that the area you in, whatever major cities that you're going to be in, you can look at the industrial parks down there, and you can start going after. Once you get your authority, it becomes active. You can start going after shippers in the industrial parks in that area. How close are you to Atlanta?
I'm based out of Atlanta.
Okay, so you're actually in Atlanta. So there's tons of shippers in Atlanta. What is that? Yeah, Fulton County. Let's see, Decatur, Macon. You got Tifton. I'm trying to remember the areas that I drove when I was driving down through there. Well, I do you one better. Put the map up. Yep, northeast. Mike said the northeast corridor pays decent, and that's another thing as dispatchers we'll learn. And being a part of a network, you have other individuals who are a part of the Facebook chat group and this network who are not only dispatchers, but they are also drivers, brokers. Even I got one who's a shipper actually. So we have every demographic of the transportation industry here, so we can kind of get an overall perspective to kind of assist one another. Where's my map? Here we go. So here we go. So yeah, you're Atlanta. So Charlotte's right here. You got Tennessee. Oh my God, you good. Alabama. You can even get down to the tip of Florida. Don't go past Orlando because you'll be in trouble. But Jacksonville, Tallahassee's fine. The Panhandle, and then Dublin. Tipton. There it is, right there. And then South Carolina's good. North Carolina. So you can pretty much be okay in these southern states, that region, for your drive-in and your reefers. And then if you got owner-operators, depending on how you vet those guys out and categorize how they want to travel, how far over the road, like I don't want to go more than 1,000 miles a week, 2,000, 3,000 miles a week or whatever, then you can decide to take them out further. if you do that, then you say, okay, well, what states do I want to send them to for that particular equipment type that they have? Of course, the Midwest is like gold for any equipment type, dry van, flatbed, or reefer of the three majors. So, but first things first, you're in the process of getting your authority, applying for your authority, and going from there. So, fmcsa.dot.gov. So yeah, once you get on that side, then you registration, you're getting your operator authority. You would under registration, and then you will apply for your authority. You will see type of authority, how to apply. So you'll follow these steps, your fees, and this is the area where you would start. And I'm sure you probably already know this. I just wanted to put it up here for others who are considering. I'm going to paste it there. So the different types of authorities, there's the MC, the FF, and the MX. MX is Mexico, an authority to run in Mexico. FF is a freight forwarder. The only one you probably need to worry about starting off is probably the MC, the motor carrier. And then, of course, they're going to show you 4 different types, up to 4, I believe. Common carrier, contract, household, and passenger. Of course, you are more than likely going to select the most standard one, which is the common carrier, where you can run freight all over the state. So, but this is the area that you would start. I'm sure are you familiar with this area, right, Shanir?
Yes, I'm familiar with that website.
Okay. Well, good luck. If you have any questions, if I can't answer, I have resources that can. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't know if you you're a guest. All right, you're a guest. You said YouTube. Okay. Well, any questions?
At this time, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else? And let me save.
Charles, when applying for the MC, because I read this a while back, do you have a limited time in order to get your insurance? Correct? There's a time frame in order to submit your insurance once you have your MC authority.
I think that's the other way around. You have a limited time for your authority. You have to have your insurance in place prior to your authority becoming active.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, and I could be misquoting it, but we can read through that. But there is a time limit on one way or the other. Yeah, Mike says correct. So there is a time. What is the time frame, Mike? Is it 15 days? Is it 30 days? 45 days? Yeah. And then explain
what,
for the she was saying as far as the when you apply for your authority, as far as the insurance, the whole process.
Well, you can apply for it without the insurance, but it ain't going to go active. I think you got like 30 days, 45 days to have insurance before they'll just dead your application. You dead on your $300. So once you can do it either way, but if you don't have the insurance money, there's no sense of doing it because your authority ain't going to go active until you have insurance, and that's probably like a 30-day wait after you get the insurance.
Right. And then, so now that leads into the next issue. You're getting insurance. What are you getting insurance for? Now you got to have a truck and trailer. You got to have at least a truck, a power-only truck, because you're applying for insurance. You just can't apply for insurance for a phantom vehicle, right? You got to have something to apply for insurance for. So now it's going backwards now. So I need to get a tractor, I should say, and then apply for insurance for that, and then apply for the authority to operate it, and that's the order. So Okay?
Okay.
So are you, who's that, Tharwa?
Yes, it's Darla.
Okay, were you considering,
No, I just remember when Eric, my boyfriend, got his. This was a couple of years ago when he started, with his own truck, and it was a learning curve, like and at the time I wasn't paying attention because I had no idea I was going to be doing dispatching at this point, and it was just a hard one because just shopping around for insurance, nobody even wanted to, it was like it was just hard getting insurance because, having a new MC, there's limited insurance companies that even wanted to take a look at you to even give you a quote because you were a new company.
Yep, and then credit, and then, history, credit. There's all, It can get frustrated a little bit. But just stick with it because every owner-operator who has their authority down and who's had it for years started the same way, the same path that you are about to take, right? So, I mean, that's how it is. And I can reach out to other carriers to get information, as to, some of the techniques and strategies to get around it. Well, not get around it, but to the obstacles to overcome when you come in front of them. When you have pain points in applying for your authority,
ended up going with and actually leasing on with one of his buddies, just to make it easier to just get started. So that was the route he ultimately took, is just leasing on with someone else because we were having a hard time getting our own insurance and then just even the cash flow to get that all started.
Correct. So the transition was a little bit easier for you because you were under the authority of an already established trucking company.
Correct.
So when you branch off, when you branch off and get your own authority, you still going to be new. You're not going to use the authority of the person that you were leasing on to get insurance.
Yeah, that's the only downside of that is you still have to start from scratch at some point. Once you get yourself a little more established financially.
Exactly. So, but you are getting you're still building like credit. You're getting the experience of driving experience under someone else's authority. But I'm sure Eric has been driving for a number of years, correct?
Yeah, it's been driving for 15 years, and so it's just this last year or so now that he branched out on his own. But even with that, it just and I wasn't helping him at the time. He had no idea, everything involved in getting things started and kind of trial and error. And then towards the end of last year, that's when he started, because he did flatbed, and that's when he started with his cousin in November of 2019 doing the reefer based out of Missouri.
Okay.
And it's doing well, although right now, like I was trying to look for loads for them, and even reefer coming out of there, it's like $1.67, which was crazy rate. Yeah, that was
right now.
Yeah, this was a couple of days ago. It just plummeted, and I couldn't make sense of it because usually, depending on that ratio, right, the load to truck ratio, that really influences the rate, which is my understanding. And right now, a lot of trucks are sitting, and there's clearly more loads than there are trucks, and so I don't understand how the rate can be that crazy.
Well, what happens is sometimes a large percentage of carriers, for whatever reason, is taking cheap freight. Such a case that now the brokers are going to cut their margins in half and bring those numbers down lower, and then sell those lower margined loads to the carrier because carriers are taking cheap freight, so they're content with what the brokers are giving them. Now, if that behavior stops and the brokers' loads are not being moved, then it's going to force the brokers to raise those rates back up to where they should be to begin with.
Hey, Charles.
But, yes.
Okay, listen, that's all a factor too, but right now, it's something different. The last 2 weeks, right, what she's saying about the load boards, a lot of the distribution centers and a lot of shippers are shutting down, forced to the, those crowds of people that got to work there. So, you know, and then they got to close down, so right now there's a lot more trucks on the road than loads. And all the loads, the national rate is almost $1 a mile. So a lot of owner-operators are shut down already, And like Friday was my last carrier, he shut down. And right now is not the time to be going to buy a truck and do anything else until, after this coronavirus thing is over with. See how this is going to play out.
Yeah, that's great advice because, don't invest that $5,000. I think, Mike, you just put that about $5,000 to get authority, start with good driving record and good credit. Yeah. So, now it's not
the minimum then.
And that number includes everything, all the startup costs included.
Now that's with your MC. You got to do with your UCR. What else is it? MC. Or you got to do what is it? BOC. But
BOC. IFTA.
Yeah, you gotta. That's about another $600. Yeah, so it's probably about $6,000. I didn't even think about the IFTA. You gotta pay them for the year up front. So that's about $6,000 just starting. You gotta have a good driving record and good credit to get that price. Cause your insurance, you gotta pay a down payment on insurance. And unless I heard the down payment was $35,000 to $4,000.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So and then you gotta once you pay all that. You got to sit dormant for about almost 2 months. So once you pay it, you ain't making no money because you got to wait till your MC number to go active.
Right.
Before you can start hauling loads and everything. But right now, all the rates is going down. That's on reefer, flatbed, and driving. It doesn't matter. Because that's like nationwide, that dollar a mile thing. And a lot of trucks are shut down because basically they can't survive doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So right now, the trucking industry is not the place to be for the next few months until you find out how this virus thing is going to play out.
Right. There you got it, folks. Hopefully, Shania is still on here. She's listening to that information. If you are able to wait a little while and see how this pandemic goes, and then decide to jump in. Maybe start off, get your feet wet, at least understanding the transportation industry from a dispatching perspective before you invest that large sum of money into something that's not going to give you a fair rate of return currently because of what we're going through right now. So I'm not saying that the transportation industry is bad. It's just that it's experiencing a downturn right now.
At the moment. Exactly.
At the moment, correct. Yeah. So
I'm really using this time, and I started, as you know, Charles, 2-3 weeks ago with the dispatching, and things just got progressively worse, with the virus. But I'm really just using this opportunity because I know, just like with any other industry, real estate or whatever, it never stays the same, and this is unprecedented. Thing we're going through right now, so it's not going to stay this way. So take this opportunity to just learn everything you can, just behave like a sponge and just absorb all this information. So when things start picking up, you're ready to go. And I'm not being discouraged. I'm using this as an opportunity to just allow myself to learn this process, and when things start picking up, there's no time to waste then, so it's what it is. There's, we cannot do anything about that ourselves right now, but just use it to learn this process. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah, so just soak up as much information, knowledge, and then put it all together into a process or a workflow for your specific company. Apply the general information that you receive either from this platform or wherever you get it from, and then because you as individual businesses, as individual dispatching companies, soon to be trucking companies, you know how you want to structure your particular company. You just take the data and apply it to your structures. So, and that's it. So yeah, but it's cool. It's gonna change. I would say, me personally, by June. Now, from what I understand, that the virus can't survive in the hot weather for too long. It's going to die off. So June is like May, obviously, but June will probably be definitely. So yeah.
Where you got that from, man?
My wife.
I hope she's right. I hope she's right.
Yeah, I heard that as well, Charles. It's something like no other. Usually with the virus, that's why the hospitals are so cold, because germs don't spread as much under cold conditions. But this virus, the heat actually kills it, and it's something that will help to keep the numbers down and help us to recover with the higher temperature coming.
Yeah, so let's see, who else? Somebody? Yeah.
Oh, that was Robert just commented.
Yeah.
And listen, I got some advice for everybody listening, right? Because see how you do the numbers and you say, yeah, you know how you can get to 5 carriers, this and that. All of that is true, but to be honest, you just starting out. The best thing to do is just get one carrier, and that's how you get your experience of what you got to do, how this really goes. And when I say one carrier, I don't mean because you're going to run across carriers that you only going to work with them sometimes. They're only going to call you when they're in a jam. They need you to get them out. I'm talking about a carrier that you running like almost, every other day, whatever. You build your experience off of him. That's how you find out about the TL1 use, your certificate of relief and all this, all the things that you got to do. You get your experience over that. But as of right now, don't look to make no money. Because the truck driver's not making no money, so you're not going to accumulate any money off of that. So look to make about maybe $100, $150 a week off a carrier, at this time. And right now, if you can afford it, that's where you get your experience. That way you can start. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, 5 carriers is a lot of work. It's not easy. Because there's going to be days where you can't find that specific carrier that wants $250 a mile, because I got carriers that he not moving unless you give him, what he wants, and he has no problem with sitting for a day or two. So then you got a few carriers. You're searching these load boards and using all your resources all the time. So that you just starting out 5 carriers, that's way too much, to handle in a beginner. That's just my opinion, though. You know what I mean?
I agree. That's why I was saying you have to build up to that. One carrier at a time. Like you said, get that one carrier, run them. If you get a good broker going out and a good broker coming back, and you're running that same carrier under that load, under that same lane, then you can get to a point where you're comfortable with that, and then you can scale to a second carrier under the same lane for the same 2 brokers, the broker going out and the broker coming back.
Exactly.
So yeah, but yeah, you scale one at a time. One carrier at a time. Like you said, get used to that process. The TONUs, the TCOM checks, all the detention times, all that stuff, that the little idiosyncrasies of dispatching that you're not gonna receive until you actually get in the meat of dispatching. You might get it. I mean, I'll give you what I know, and I've done it a lot. There's certain things that I've actually forgotten that I've done, but when somebody bring it up, I say, oh yeah, I remember doing that, and then I'll go into detail about, and I can relate my situation, and I'll go ahead and explain to you how it works. But yeah, there's little details and idiosyncrasies, but the general concept of dispatching, that's high level. We can get the carriers, book the loads, invoice and stuff like that, and then we'll take it from there. So. But great advice, Mike. Thank you. Any questions? Get ready. We got about 9 minutes Q&A. Let me save this. I got to save this Word document before I. No other questions. Hopefully it was good information today. So I'm going to call this, let's see, put it in our Dispatcher 101 training, and call it.
Andrea, I want to ask you a question.
Someone is speaking at volume. Who's that, Chandria?
Yes, it's Andrea.
Okay, hi Chandria. I can hear you now.
It's just a quick question. So, for number 2, if you don't have no assets and you want to get an MC authority, you have to still get insurance.
Yeah, insurance is a requirement. So if you go to the website, you need to have insurance because you're not going to have an operating authority unless you have insurance, because you're going to eventually have trucks on the road and they have to be insurance. So it's a requirement.
Okay. I understand. If you don't have assets, what are you insuring? But okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that leads. I think I see what you're getting at, because you're getting an authority, but you don't have your own assets. You get your own truck and trailer, or you don't have a truck and trailer. So what truck are you going to use to get the insurance?
Right. That's what. This is Allison. Charles. Is that what the brokers get? Because they have an MC authority that's not active. They just purchase an MC authority.
Charles, you can get an MC authority active if you're a broker without no insurance. But if you're going to be a carrier, you have to have insurance for it to go active.
There you go. Because the broker, one of the reasons being is the brokers, for each carrier they get set up under, that's why they're asking for those documents to get those, to process and vet those carriers out, W-9, the MC authority, and remember the certificate of insurance, right? So on the broker side, they're bringing those carriers, and then that's why also too on the certificate of insurance from the broker, if they're asking for a carrier, they want to be made a certificate holder on the certificate of insurance. This is another reason why the broker does what they do. So it all kind of comes full circle, All right, so I saved this document. I'm going to close it, put it in my folder. And this one here. Any other questions? I didn't get a chance to call a carrier like Robert wanted me to, but I wanted to go into the role of a dispatcher because I want us to be on the same page as dispatchers, no matter which way we go, to at least understand the basic concepts of what it is to be a dispatcher. Because again, this is Dispatcher 101 training for beginners. So if everyone's on that page, then when we grow, we can grow as a collective. Now, everyone's not going to grow at the same pace, of course, because some people pick up things quicker than others. But as a collective, the goal of this training platform is to have us grow as a collective. And then I don't believe in that crab in the barrel thing where we pulling people down. I want us to pull each other up, because I want this to be like a family, this training platform to be like a family. And we help one another by providing tools and resources to one another, and help where we can. So the role of a dispatcher, hopefully that information, it'll be on the website. I'm probably going to put it under probably tools and resources once I get it designed and uploaded, and go from there.
Charles.
Yeah.
For the people listening, thinking about going to get the MC, right? When you do your application, you got to put your credit card or your payment information in first. So when you're filling it out, make sure you only hit carrier. If you're going to be a broker, make sure you only hit broker. When you start hitting, oh, you want to do this, you want to do that, you can have a bill of $1,500-$1,600, just applying, and you can't get your money back.
Right. Because it's non-refundable, one-time payment, non-refundable. So hopefully everybody heard Mike, and we can repeat it because this is a recording. But when you are on the fmcsa.dot.gov website applying for your motor carrier authority, if you are applying for the carrier authority as a carrier, make sure you only select carrier. If you're applying for the broker, make sure you only select the broker. Otherwise, you're going to be charged exorbitantly for something that you may not have applied for. Because, like Mike said, it takes your credit card information up front. So just be mindful of that for those who are considering applying. At least look at the website and walk through just to look at it, up to the point where it asks you for your credit card information and see how much.
They don't explain none of that to you, Charles.
Okay.
They just ask you, what you want to do, and got a whole bunch of boxes, and you basically most of the people doing it don't really know what they're doing, and
right.
you just I'm going to do this, I'm going to do general freight, and I'm probably going to pick up some electronics here. They charge you for all of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you just hit just one box, general freight carrier. That's it. Don't just start naming all the other stuff they got there because they're going to charge you for all that.
Right. So what I'm probably going to do is probably do a little bit more thorough research and then put that in Trucking 101 area as a bonus, just to have, and then reach out to some people. So great advice, Mike. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hopefully everybody was listening on that and who are considering going that route as far as applying for the authority. Trucking side. Any other questions? All right, guys. Enjoy your Sunday. I will see you Wednesday. Let me put my like I always do. Almost forgot. If you have any questions outside of training, of course, my cell number. Right there. And I will see you guys on Wednesday for the next live training, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But any questions prior to that? And, of course, we got our Facebook group, Dispatcher 101, and then we have the private chat group for the enrolled members to join as well. And then, of course, the YouTube channel, Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners. So subscribe to that. We want to try to grow that as well, because try to put as much content in there as well. So enjoy your weekend, guys. Have a great week. I will see you Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? All right, everybody saying bye. Thanks, bye. All right, Shanier. Hopefully, Shanier, you consider enrolling.